Hey guys and welcome. God of War Ragnarok Valhalla has been out for a few days now, and everyone across the gaming world absolutely loves it, including me. It's one of the best DLCs I've played ever, to be honest. It's that good, and considering it's completely free as well, it's just fantastic. There are so many games that release paid DLC which are such an afterthought that it's so refreshing to see Santa Monica put so much effort into some free DLC and giving the community a really good 10+ hours of gameplay. However, those that have played God of War 2018 and God of War Ragnarok will know that Santa Monica are really sneaky, man. They know what they're doing. They'll put teasers and hints in for the next game for what's happening later on in the story, like they did with Tyr with their little hyphen missing when Odin was impersonating him. Just the finer details, man, make these games really good. Also, in God of War 2018, who blew the damn horn? Nobody knows. And in Valhalla, well, they did not stop there. In today's video, however, I want to focus on Tyr a little bit, his travels across the globe, and detail the weaponry that he was using along with the armor he was wearing whilst he was battling us in Valhalla. In my story explain video, I may have got a couple of them wrong, and man, did you guys tell me about it in the comments, so here is my apology for that. And this video hopefully will be me making up for that. But this could hint at not just one, not just two, but 3, 4 or 5 mythologies that we could potentially be seeing in the next God of War game. We might not just be secluded to the one like we have done in Norse mythology for 2018 and this one. In 2018 and Ragnarok, we might also be exploring different mythologies. We'll have to wait and see. Of course, let me know your thoughts and opinions down below as always, everyone, but let's dive straight in to the video. Before we delve straight into the lore around Tyr's travels, be sure to check out in the description for a full story and ending explained for the Valhalla DLC, along with a playlist link to every God of War video that I've ever done. There's about 40+ videos in there. Everyone seemed to really enjoy them when they came out, and they go into detail around the 2018 story, the lore of that story, Ragnarok, the lore of that story, and why different characters did what, etc, etc. It's a really insightful thing, and it might even give you a bit of a catch up as well as to where we are, because it did come out over a year ago. So, Tyr's been a busy guy. As you know from the Ragnarok story, what we thought was Tyr that we saved was in fact Odin impersonating Tyr, and him learning everything there was to learn about Ragnarok, the shrines, the giants, and ultimately our plan. However, we did eventually find the real Tyr. He was locked away in an Asgardian prison in Niflheim. He here mentions that he wanted to catch up on what happened. He wanted to take some time away, take some time to himself, considering he literally missed one of the biggest events in history, Ragnarok. Tyr during this time would visit each one of the realms, assessing what happened to them, understanding more about them. Tyr's travels, however, were not just subject to the different realms. He also ventured off into the world and around the globe. And this was teased by some of the actions and different moves he was doing when we find him across the different realms. As you can see, there's many different ones. I'll leave that video linked below. Go check them out, and it gives you a bit of a recap on that. Some say this might have been Asian mythology being teased, Egyptian, Celtic, and many more. Anyway, let's go straight onto the teasers. When we first meet Tyr at the very top of Valhalla, he tells us that we need to battle him in order to prove our strength, to prove that we're powerful enough. And it was here that we saw the first set of gear. This was a shield and a spear, one that would have been used back in ancient Greek mythology by the soldiers going into battle. The same that the Greek soldiers would have used when Kratos commanded his army against the barbarians. This does make sense, however, this Greek spear and shield, because after all we are in the Greek part of Valhalla, right, within Kratos' mind, so it's fitting in that aspect, and this is why it's the first weapon that Santa Monica go on to show to us. But I think we can safely say that we're going to cross this off as the main mythology, because we don't think it will be. However, the second time we see Tyr, he doesn't only have a weapon to fight us with, but he also is dressed differently this time. The outfit looks to be traditional Chinese, and a simple Google image search would suggest this as well. Look, I'm not a historian, so you guys have to let me know down below if you have any other suggestions as to what Tyr could be wearing here. To me, that's exactly what it looks like though. However, Tyr then pulls out something called an Aztec war club. This weapon was used by a few different civilizations, including the Aztecs, the Olmec, the Maya, the Mixtec, the Toltec, and the Tarkasans. Also, an interesting thing to note as well, that every time Tyr pulls a weapon out, this little symphony plays in the background.
I brought something else to keep things interesting. You're not the only one with weapons from far off lands, you know. ready.
This seems like it may very well be from Asian culture, but I'll let me know down below in the comments what you think. This could point towards Santa Monica exploring more of a Mexican side of things, with the Aztec being a civilization of central Mexico. Potentially that's more of a mythology that they're going to explore, the Aztec mythology, which would be really, really interesting because there's so much involved in that as well that could make for a really interesting game, including some of the locations around central Mexico within that time and era. The next time we see Tyr, however, he pulls out another cherished weapon from his travels. These were a pair of kopesh swords. These were an Egyptian sickle-shaped sword that was initially developed from battle axes. The kopesh was a curved sickle-shaped Egyptian sword from the Bronze Age that originated from the crescent-shaped Mesopotamtic battle axes. The kopesh was already used around 2500 BC. Around the 16th century BC, the kopesh was the most popular weapon in ancient Egypt. The blade of a kopesh was on average around 50 to 60 centimeters long, and it was versatile in use. The curvature of a blade was used to block an enemy's arm or their shield, and it was a very effective weapon in close quarter combat. The kopesh was initially made of bronze. From the 16th century BC, it was then made of iron. The sword probably also had a religious function, because many Egyptian pharaohs are depicted with a kopesh on murals in tombs. For example, the tomb of Tutankhamun from the 14th century BC. The sword fell out of use around 1300 to 1200 BC, but is still mentioned on the Rosetta Stone. Look, we know from God of War's original vision for the 2018 game that Santa Monica always wanted to go to Egypt, and that was a huge inspiration and a big location as to where the game could have ended up. We could have just completely come away from Norse mythology, and we could have been balls deep in Egyptian mythology. But maybe the next game will visit the different mythologies across the game. Maybe we'll go to Egypt and then sort of have different other mythologies that interact and intertwine with that. But Egypt would be such a good mythology to explore, with all the pharaohs in Egypt, the pyramids as well. It just, oh man, it just sounds absolutely incredible. Finally, however, the last battle with Tyr, he pulls out a samurai sword, or a katana, whatever you want to call it. The first use of the term katana to describe a sword occurs as early as the Kamakura period in 1185 and 1333. But the actual history of the bladed weapons craftsmanship in Japan stretches back over 20 centuries. At first, Japanese swords were simple variations of the Chinese sword that were straight, double-edged iron blades. The first original Japanese swords that are considered the precursors of the modern katana began to appear during the early Heian period around 700 CE. Katanas were mainly used by the samurai, the military nobility of feudal Japan around 1185 to 1600, all the way up into the Edo period, which was 1603 to 1868. The increased popularity of the katana among samurai came about because of the changing nature of close quarter combat. The quicker draw of the sword was well suited to combat, where victory depended heavily on fast response times. The katana was worn through a belt-like sash named an obi, with the sharpened edge facing up. Ideally, samurai could draw the sword and cut the enemy with a single motion. I just think all of these sound really, really cool, especially when you dive into the history and the lore behind some of these different weaponries. Tyr has been busy. He's been traveling, and maybe the outcome of his travels will depend on where we go next. This is all really interesting to me because maybe Tyr meets a god somewhere, offers up his help, offers up the Peace Council's help, and that's where we come in. Maybe we need to save him from someone, and that's how the game kicks off. But we have 4 sets of weaponry that we've seen in this single DLC, which points us towards like 4 or 5 plus different mythologies we could potentially be seeing. We have Greece, which is with the spear and the shield. Of course, we're going to have references back to Greece in the later games because that's Kratos' origin, but I think it's safe to say we won't be going back to Greece anytime soon. We have the Aztec as well, which I think would be a very interesting mythology to explore, which is where Tyr got the Aztec War Club from. Egypt, of course, with the dual kopesh swords. These look amazing, and the mythology for Egypt is just super interesting. It's so mysterious with the pyramids, how they were built, all of those different things as well. They're mummifying people and stuff. I just think it'd be such a cool mythology to explore, and I think it would really suit God of War as well. And finally, we have the samurai, the katana, which is from Asian culture. Not to mention as well the outfit that looked also to be native Chinese, so potentially generally Asian culture from Japan to China. Look, I'm not a historian, I'm not an expert on this stuff, but from what I can see, Santa Monica are teasing that they're toying with 3 or 4, maybe even 5+ mythologies and cultures to explore during their next game, and I'm really excited to see where they go with it. But ultimately, let me know in the comments down below what you guys think that will go next in God of War, whatever the game will be called. But guys, that is going to be it for today's video. That was going into detail around the different armors, weapons that Tyr used and found on his travels that he would keep and use in combat. Again, let me know what you think down below. Also, if I've got anything wrong in this video, let me know in the comments as well, but I've tried to be as accurate as possible when making this video. But leave a like if you have enjoyed, everyone. Subscribe if you guys are brand new for plenty more God of War breakdowns. If you haven't already, checked the videos out in the description and the playlists to have a refresher, and also to watch my story explains of the Valhalla videos if you haven't already done so. But have a aggressive day, everyone. We'll see you guys next time.